I'm not a whinger, I'm not a whiner. I'm a very happy, jolly, positive person who's always looking forwards. But
even if you're not standing as a Conservative, which by then I hope you will be, I would encourage people to vote for you against these absurd rules. It should be for voters to decide whether the MP is good enough. And this is purely vindictive to stop Conservatives putting across a Conservative argument, and I use a small c as well as
Certainly.
a large c.
Well, Jacob, I must say that's brilliantly put, and in fact I'd never thought that I should take you on as a paid political consultant.
A recent article in Politico pointed out that the EU are actually beginning to believe that Keir Starmer is playing games with them and that his warm words were not really genuine. And this is not a good situation to be in, because we really need to be getting the EU's confidence back to believe that we really are committed to the project. I don't feel optimistic that this new Labour government is intent on getting rid of Brexit. In fact, it seems as if it's just more of the same. We know we're facing a punishing budget, or we've been led to believe that. There's a lot of fear and a lot of negativity. And this is having a real impact on Keir Starmer's ratings and the Labour government's ratings, and, in my view, feeds into the populism again and feeds the populist crocodile Nigel Farage. The Brexit referendum, we were told, was about seeing off UKIP. But in fact, all that the referendum did was actually ensure that Nigel Farage became credible. Nigel Farage is now an elected MP, as well as presenting on GB News 3 nights a week. And the new Labour government is possibly going to put an end to that, which is making GB News and Nigel Farage and others very twitchy. However, they could see this as an opportunity to create more grievance and grow popular support even further. So it will be interesting to see how this plays out.
I'm not a whinger, I'm not a whiner. I'm a very happy, jolly, positive person who's always looking forwards. But
Nigel Farage is hoping that you've forgotten he spent his entire political career moaning and whinging and harking back to the past.
excuse me, if you will, I'm going to have a little whinge. So there are 26 House of Commons committees, 26 of them. And would you believe that the 5 members of Parliament elected for Reform UK, each of whom have 800,000 voters behind them, not one of us is on the 26 committees. No, we've been gotten rid of. And today, Lucy Powell, who is Leader of the House, has set up a new committee, a new modernisation committee. When you hear that word, you should always have a slight shiver down the spine. And she herself, unusually, is going to chair this committee. It has 14 members, 9 of them are Labour. And I tell you what they're really going for. They're talking about second jobs, but in particular, what they're talking about is broadcasting. And it says the committee will consider what advantages, if any, outside paid engagements such as media appearances, journalism and speeches furnish to the public versus potential conflicts of interest. Well, folks, I want to tell you this. I don't see any conflict of interest between being an MP and coming here 3 evenings a week for an hour. And by the way, if there are crucial votes, I just won't be here. I don't see any conflicts of interest whatsoever. In fact, I might make an argument that's slightly different, that I'm here with a panel of people. Some agree with me, some disagree with me. We have open debate. I'd like to think that through programmes like this, what we actually do is take what's really happening in politics and bring it to a bigger audience. So I think it's complementary. So all I can say to Lucy Powell is this really affects Lee Anderson and myself. And if you're coming after us and think you can bully us, you've picked on the wrong people. I'm not going anywhere. If you want to martyr me, please have a go. So what about this conflict of interest, Trevor? I mean, I know we wouldn't have thought years ago that MPs would be doing broadcasting, but MPs have always written for newspapers, haven't they?
Absolutely, and this new modernisation committee has a slightly sinister Orwellian or Cromwellian tang to it. I think that there's going to be a lot more coming out of that modernisation committee, which we aren't ready for. And I think that the target for this is quite certainly the right of centre politicians. And where would they be pointing if David Lammy was still on LBC, for instance? And I think that it's not just right-wing politicians or people like yourselves who appear on GB News. I think it's GB News thereafter, as a voice which is an uncomfortable amplification of many people in this country's political point of views. And I think you actually summed it up there, that this is a more valuable way for people like yourselves, who get very little in the way of oxygen in the House of Commons, to get your point across on a more broader spectrum.
And yes, it's a channel that has an opinion, but Scarlett, we invite everyone to come on and say their piece.
Yeah, and I'm always in a tiny minority, right? Because I'm always...
50-50 is not bad, is it?
Nigel, you disagree with me, Trevor disagrees with me. Come on. No, but actually...
But we always treat your argument with respect.
You
Always.
You do.
Always.
Lee Anderson doesn't. Lee Anderson has Lefty in the corner, which is why I refuse to go on his show anymore. But
well, that's Lee, but yeah.
Yeah, because I'm supposed to take a joke, but the right can't. No, seriously, I'm very old-fashioned. I believe that an MP is a proper job. I think... How much do you get paid? 94,000 a year?
92 or 3.
Yeah, it's 94, which I think is perfectly reasonable.
How many hours a week should I work?
No, and I think it should be a full-time job. And I just think that
What's
that's
a full-time
enough.
job?
Full-time job is anything up to 100 hours a week. You know that. I mean, you know that lots and lots of people work. I thought
the Labour Party wanted us to have Fridays off and work from home and do a 4-day week.
No, the Labour Party actually knows that people work very hard, and just because, quite reasonably, Keir Starmer says that he would like, when possible, to spend Friday evenings with his family, which is something that he instituted when he was, a very hard-working barrister, and it was his way of of marking out that time, which he doesn't always do, is fine. We on the left, we do work quite hard. But hold on, and all this paranoia. Gordon Brown thought that MPs should just have one job. Right? This goes long before GB News.
What should I do with my company, which does a variety of things and pays money every month to 5 or 6 different people, depending on what services they provide for me to help me do all the different things that I do? Should I just get rid of them all?
No, I mean, somebody else can run your company, can't they? I mean, it happens over and over again, right? But I just think this thing about having to have, I've got to have this and I've got to earn, what is it you earn, $1 million a year?
No, that's obvious.
Well, that's what you said. I read it in the Register of Interest.
If you read the Register of Interest, you'll see my GB News earnings for August were, do you know how much?
Well, presumably almost nothing because you weren't there, right?
I was there. It was 0. Anyway, we won't argue about that. There's a broader, more important point. Do we want our members of Parliament simply to be party lobby fodder? Is there not some advantage in them having a hand still in the real world?
No, I think what they should also be doing is spending a lot of time in their constituency and finding out, going out and about, right, rather than... and of course you go on TV programmes. You always have done, frankly, Nigel, long before you were given one. Sure. That's why we've all heard of you. The BBC gave you your time.
There's lots of jealousy out there too, I think. There's a lot of jealousy in the Commons, I think. Why, if a Labour... Let's just say, for argument's sake, that a Labour MP is a general practitioner. Might be quite a good thing for he or she one day a month to actually be in the surgery, to talk to people, to hear what's going on.
Yeah, no, and a lot of them, actually, one of the things that MPs do is they quietly write books. But I think, what a lot of MPs do is they're chairs of things in their constituencies. They do a lot of things for free, right? I think that's fine. I do not understand why MPs have to have a second income.
What do you think, Trevor, overall? Do you think Labour are going to crack down hard on this?
Probably, if they can get away with it, and I think they are in a position where they can get away with almost anything at the moment. I think your point about GPs is quite interesting, because what do they do in the National Health Service for medical practitioners who want to do some private work on the side? They allow them to do it, and they allow it, and they have allowed it for a very long time in order to make the NHS work. What's the difference?
Not much.
None.
Not much. No, I think I rather agree. I don't know. Jacob, you've been through all of this.
Well, there are two really important things. First of all, Scarlett, being an MP is not a job, it is an office. And the difference with an office is that you are answerable to your voters for how you've conducted yourself. And if they don't care if Nigel is a presenter on a TV programme, that's their business, nobody else's. And the second thing is that you cannot change conditions of membership without legislation. That it is by law that MPs are elected, and by law that they are restrained in what they can and can't do. It is not sufficient to do this by motion of the House of Commons. And if, Nigel, you were ever suspended by the House of Commons by a mere motion, you should do what Wilkes did and stand in a by-election. And if your voters think your behaviour is good enough, it's good enough. And if you stand in such a by-election, even if you're not standing as a Conservative, which by then I hope you will be, I would encourage people to vote for you against these absurd rules. It should be for voters to decide whether the MP is good enough. And this is purely vindictive to stop Conservatives putting across a Conservative argument, and I use a small c as well as a large c.
Well, Jacob, I must say that's brilliantly put, and in fact, I'd never thought that I should take you on as a paid political consultant. Because, no, I mean, I meant what I said at the end of my little monologue on it. If they want to martyr me, that's fine.
You will win.
I'll fight a by-election. I mean, Jacob's point about it being an office is quite a good point, isn't it?
Look, I just think that we need to take being an MP seriously. And I think that if you've got a programme, is it now only 3 nights a week?
Yeah.
That it's not taking it very seriously.
Should I have weekends off as well? Holidays?
I
don't have any. I work all the time.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
When the situation was reversed, if I had votes, Nigel stood in for me and did an extra hour.
We did it.
Being an MP was my first responsibility as an office holder. And GB News has been completely understanding about this. Sometimes I could only give 20 minutes notice that I wasn't going to be in, and it was taken.
If Keir Starmer had had the courage to fight the election by promising to get rid of Brexit, I don't think we'd be in this mess. And Nigel Farage wouldn't have the power that he now has. Sadly, Brexit is still alive, Nigel Farage is still alive, and everything they try to do to cut him down carries the danger of him being martyred and making himself even bigger. Theresa May learnt this lesson, and it seems that the Labour Party are only just catching up.